In life, we all have places we want to get to. Some of us have burning desires that we feel in our stomach. We don't all want to just get married and buy a house and have kids and call that the end of my life. I'm done. I'm successful. No, there's some of us that want more. Arnold, he was one of them. And it just blows my mind to see everything that he has done throughout his life and how he started in the gym. And that gets me pretty excited because that's pretty much my foundation for the day, starting in the gym. Recently, I hit a PR on the bench press of 240 pounds, and to think that I always had the vision of not hitting that, but hitting 225 pounds. And sure, it may not sound like a lot of weight, but from where I began, not even being able to unrack 135 pounds, you gotta give me some credit. And you can even critique me on maybe my diet was off, maybe my form was off, because it did take me almost 4 years to be able to get to pushing and repping out 225, and this is fairly new for me. I could only do one rep on 240 pounds, but I had that vision that I would get there one day, no matter how long it took. And Arnold cemented that in me further so, because for him, he had a vision and he knew where he wanted to get to. And personally, I can be guilty of being a multi-passionate entrepreneur. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. There's opportunities here, opportunities there. But really, you're never going to dominate a particular field unless you dedicate yourself to it. And if you're just scattered everywhere, how can you actually dominate that field? You're just gonna spread yourself thin rather than really building up a foundation when you could dedicate so much more time to that specific thing. So I really admire that he always focused on one goal at a time. The first one being bodybuilding. And it just goes to show when you have that destination in mind, you will eventually get there. He says, and I quote, "Failure or giving up was never part of the vision." So if that's not part of the final vision, why would it matter if that does occur from time to time? Right now, this is the first video that I'm pushing out on YouTube as a full-length video rather than the shorts that I've been uploading. But if no one shows up, I don't really care, because this still gives me the opportunity to work on my craft. Because if the journey is 1,000 steps, this is my first step. And who's gonna notice when you take your first step? Not very many people. So it's all about starting and knowing where you want to get to. And this brings me into the second takeaway from watching this series. Even if you don't see progress, even if you don't see anything happening, don't give up. Arnold, when he wanted to get into acting, he waited 5 years until he heard anything after he first attempted to get into acting. Imagine that. Would you give up after 5 years if nothing happened? Well, you could say, easy for him, he had money. Well, easy for me too. I still have a job and I can still take care of myself. So hey, I will continue to focus on my ultimate goals because I know that I will get there. That's really how you have to think, or else you won't get there. And the more you continue to work on it, the more that invisible progress that is actually happening, but you just have to have faith in it because you can't see it, will start to become reality. You'll start seeing it in real life. It'll present itself. Imagine if Arnold had really stopped trying to meet people, trying to get into the right positions to be able to be the leading role. Imagine if he had stopped. I feel like 99% of people would have stopped doing anything they were attempting to do if they didn't have any progress after 5 years. How many people would be telling you, why are you still doing this? Why are you so crazy? Like, can't you just stop doing this? Like, do something else, dude. It's not going to work out. How many people do you think were telling him that? How many people could tell you that until you would break? You would give up. That's why it's so important not to give up, because to get to greatness, you must go through the suffering of not being great until you are. He could have even thought, oh, my first movie was a disaster. Maybe I'm just not cut out for it. But no, it's the mindset that he had. He wants to be a star. And he ultimately attained that. He could have thought, my accent, the way I look, people were telling me my muscles are too big. People don't want to see me. He could have thought that way. People were telling him that. But he refused to take on the opinions of others because he knew if he followed his vision, miracles would happen. And you create those miracles. That has to be one of my favorite takeaways, because how many of us are trying to achieve something that we feel like it's just not going our way? We have to force it to go our way. We have to make it that way. Life doesn't want you to be great. Life wants you to die. From the minute we're born, everything around us is trying to kill us. And ultimately, we will die. But if we keep on forcing what we want to do in this world, and we can live and thrive like we never imagined. Because ultimately, like for myself, to relate it back to working out, and hopefully you are working out right now, because working out gives you more confidence in yourself to do more things. So when I first hit 225 on bench press, I was like, wow, okay. Then I just hit 240 right after that. I'm like, wow, I didn't even imagine that. But that's what happens when you have that vision and you finally attain it. Then it just snowballs. It's like an avalanche effect that things just come to you now even more easily. So that's also what Arnold illustrates it to, as to one of the first persons who has ever hiked Mount Everest. Arnold really likes him because when that guy reached the top of Mount Everest, he said he looked around and then he saw another peak and he decided, let's go that way. See, and then it's on to the next peak. Really using that momentum that you have, not stopping, as in taking a break because you want to rest. I get it. Sometimes the body needs that rest, needs that recovery. But imagine if after hiking Mount Everest, you were to say, okay, I don't want to do another hike for another year. Well, even an easy hike may prove to be a little difficult for you because you haven't been moving at all. So keeping momentum on your side is definitely essential when you do have it and you want to take advantage of it. My last and final takeaway that I'll mention in this video from Arnold is how his father would always tell him, just be useful, no matter what it is. Be useful. If, for example, you've been in a place right now where you haven't been useful, you may be seen as a bum to other people, you may actually be sad, you may be depressed, whatever it may be, and you may think, why should I do something for someone else when they haven't done anything for me? Well, just to put it to you this way, no one will ever do anything for you if you're not useful. So if you become useful, if you live with family, if you help them out, you know, they'll help you out, they'll think of you, they'll have good things to say about you, that'll help you go further. If at the workplace you do more than what you get paid to do, which I very well believe in, because you'll never be paid the rate that you want to get to if you're not willing to do it already. So if you become more useful at your workplace, people will take notice, people will thank you for helping them. If you really just are a hard worker and you want people to know that you're there, you're willing to help, you're part of the team, that will push you and leverage you so much more, because when you do venture off, now you do have support from a certain amount of people, you have a small little fan base, and they'll support you in your next venture. So keep it up, become useful if you're not, and thank you for tuning into this video. If you've stayed here till the end, I really appreciate you. Let me know what can be better about this video. I recently watched a Hamza video for one of the first times ever, and it's funny that he says he stopped making YouTube videos when he felt like he really got a lot of traction, a lot of subscribers, because he feels like people should withdraw from dopamine. And yes, YouTube does give you dopamine hits and this and that, and whatever his philosophy is on it, I'm not too sure. Although when you're listening to someone speak about how to make yourself better, I think it's a necessary thing, especially if you don't have anybody in your life that does talk about making your own life better, that does have a strong mindset to achieve more in life. If you don't have friends like that, the only way you could really have them is by making me a friend, making Hamza a friend, making someone that you look up to a friend. And even though they don't talk back to you, I mean, they might shoot me a comment, I'll respond, and I wish the best for you.